Are you an idiot? Well, you're in good company. There are about 8 billion idiots on this planet, and that number grows every day. Don't be the guy or gal who says, "I'm not an idiot," because that makes you the biggest idiot of all. We all have our moments of brilliance and moments of idiocy. Embrace it, folks. Don't be ashamed. Without those idiot moments, we'd never be able to appreciate our brilliance. Welcome to I Love My Idiot, a podcast about the idiots we love, the idiots we loathe, and the idiots we can't seem to avoid. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Visit our website at ilovemyidiot.com.
Welcome to our podcast. This is I Love My Idiot.
Oh, I love you too. Thanks.
You're welcome. So I'm Rosie, and
I'm Clyde November. We are the Novembers, and we are the hosts of this podcast. Thank you for joining us. How are you today?
I'm doing good. I mean, this is quite surreal because it's a dream that we've been thinking about doing for a long time, and now it's coming true. So
it's very true. We've been plotting this out for a while, and finally the reality is coming true. So thank you to the listeners for helping us make this reality, or this dream a reality, I should say. Today, since we are planning on doing this for a while, I think it's important that our listeners get to know us. What do you think?
Before we jump right in, I know that you're really excited.
I am excited.
You've
amped.
been real, antsy about getting this thing going and practicing and doing all these things. I'd first like to talk a little bit about how we got here and why our podcast is called I Love My Idiot.
All right.
So Clyde and I met 12 years ago. When you visit our website, you'll learn a little bit more about us, but
ilovemyidiot.com.
Thanks for the plug. I was about 2 weeks away from breaking up with Clyde when he proposed to me in a really idiotic way. All started with a text message that said, "We need to talk." And at the time, I was working.
It's
and I get this
so
text.
hard to convey tone via text message. I don't recommend it to anyone else.
So I get this text that says, "We need to talk," and I thought it was going to be the breakup conversation. And so I got pretty upset with Clyde and actually ended up working 2 hours later beyond my shift just so that I wouldn't have to face him.
Well, and what she doesn't know is with a good friend of mine, I had spent the last week getting ready, ring shopping, doing all kinds of things, prepping for this big moment where I was going to ask her to marry me. And I kind of dropped the ball by sending a text saying, "Hey, we needed to talk." But I didn't really think of it as a negative thing when I sent that text. I thought of it as, I want you to know that I don't want you to just come home and we'll watch TV. We gotta talk.
By watch TV, just keep in mind, at the time, Clyde was unemployed and living on my couch, so...
I was a full-time student.
Full-time student, did not bring in any money. But yeah, to receive a text that said, "We need to talk," I remember thinking, what the heck could he possibly need to talk about? The guy is sleeping on my couch, eating up all my food all day.
Oh, let's be honest, I wasn't on the couch. Wink, wink.
But he took me up into the mountains, into this place I had never been before, and I thought, yeah, this is the start of any sort of murder mystery that I've ever seen, and this guy I've only been dating for about 5 months is taking me into the hills to talk about something. I thought, this might be the moment that I die.
I wanted to have a romantic view overlooking the city below. It was romantic, for me anyways. But I can't say for you. I don't know.
Yeah, so the whole way there, and ladies who are listening, you know this, but I had my arms crossed in pure silence looking out the window, refusing to make eye contact with Clyde because I was so mad at him. I like to call that the silent treatment is what I was giving him.
I thought she was just remaining quiet so I could talk to her. So I started telling her all about, what I always pictured for the future, pictured that one day I would have a wife that had certain qualities Little did I know, she took all that to mean, oh, you think I don't have these qualities? Although I did think she had the qualities. Yeah.
Well, yeah, when you come out and say, well, I always pictured that I would be with somebody who XYZ, I can't even remember now because I was shooting Venom and glaring at him from the side. But then he proposed, and the whole time I was thinking, should I say yes? I mean, I was 2 weeks away from breaking up with this guy who's sleeping on my couch. But here we are, 12 years later, telling our story
That's right.
Publicly.
And she did say yes, and, then we got married, had a handful of children, 3 to be exact, and we love those kids, but let's not deny the fact that sometimes they're idiots.
Definitely.
I know it might be shocking to hear a parent admit that their child is an idiot, because usually you go to a picnic and every parent there wants to show every picture of their child on their phone and act like their child is, like God's gift to this planet. And don't get me wrong, we love our children, we love them dearly, but sometimes they're idiots. And you're going to hear a little bit about that throughout this podcast, I would imagine.
I know this is off the grid. I mean, it's not a part of your calculated plan.
We're way off the calculated plan right
now. Let's talk about this. Clyde is very organized. He has practiced this podcast probably 15 times today. And
it's true.
It's true. And he asked me about 3 days ago. He said, are you going to practice or prepare for it? And I'm like, shoot, no. I work better off the cuff. So that is the difference between me and Clyde. Clyde needs to think things through from the top to the bottom, to the side, see every angle, every possible outcome. And I'm just like, shoot, just ask me some questions and let's talk about it. Let me tell you about something that happened this morning. I'm in the master bedroom, getting my shoes on, preparing to go to work. And I hear from the hall a scream from our oldest child, Rex, saying to James, don't brush your teeth while you're on the toilet.
That's a pretty standard thing that happens in the November household, I would say.
Maybe for the kids. And the whole time I'm thinking, should I yell from the room and say, yeah, put your toothbrush down while you're pooping? But I chose in that moment to pick my battles, and I decided, I'm going to let them resolve this themselves. And instead, I screamed out, Rex, shut the bathroom door and leave your brother alone while he poops.
Hey, and I just look at that as James being an efficient child. Why spend more time in the bathroom than you have to? If you have to poop and you have to brush teeth, why not combine them? I totally get it. I'm on James's side on this one. Yeah, he is an idiot, nonetheless.
I'm 100% on Rex's side on this because I think as far as hygiene goes and germs, it's absolutely disgusting to brush your teeth while you're using the toilet.
Well, that may be. I'm not going to deny the disgusting angle that you're arguing here. However, we're talking an 8-year-old boy. So if you think that's the most disgusting thing he does in a day, I would beg to differ. There are many ways throughout time that kids just make us say, our kids are idiots.
Yeah.
But we love them.
For sure.
But you know what? There's times where Rosie says to me, you're an idiot. And then she always says, but I love you. And that's what's important, right?
I do love you, but I was still 2 weeks away from breaking up with you. And at any given time, I could still leave.
Yeah, I know. And that's why I treat you like a queen and do everything I can to please you.
Absolutely. So the topic of the day that we're going to talk about, and I will try very hard to stay on topic.
No, we veer wherever. We are like Pocahontas. We go where the wind takes us.
That is such a corny joke.
That wasn't a joke. Sorry. Me and little Rosie just watched Pocahontas this morning. People claim it's one of the most racist Disney films out there. I don't disagree, but I love that song, I tell you.
By the way, little Rosie is named after me. She is our 3-year-old who thinks that she runs this household.
Yeah, well, when you go to work all day, she does run the household. Let's be honest. So
that's good. I've taught her well. I mean, we got to keep girl power in this house because us girls, we're outnumbered by 3 boys, so
Yeah.
it's 2-1.
I want to make something clear real quick because something just hit me. I keep talking about when you go to work and I'm home with the kids, and then you mentioned that like 12 years ago when I proposed to you, I was unemployed. I would just like people to know that I am still not unemployed. I do have a job. It is just a job that allows me to not work during the summer. So I'll let the audience infer as to what my career is.
I would also like to point out that Clyde's job it's very low income, so he does not make a lot of money. He is definitely winning in this relationship, but
I am winning, but
he's the best dad in the whole world, and he takes care of these kids.
although I don't make money, I bring a lot of smiles into the world, so I'm making the world a better place.
It's true.
One human at a time. Because we really want you to get to know us, I feel like we need to go back to the beginning. And I don't mean the beginning of Rosie and Clyde as a couple. I mean the beginning of Rosie and Clyde, the semen samples. So,
Jeez. What we're calling it?
I don't know what to call it.
Let's call it conception.
We're going back to the moment of conception. So, where were we when we were conceived? Like, how did that whole thing come about? And my question is, would you like to start or would you like me to go first?
I think, Clyde, you are the primary host of this podcast. It's been your dream for years to do this. I think you should go first.
Fair enough. The year was 1983. The day was January 19th. How do I know the day exactly? Because I was born exactly 9 months after my mom's birthday. So I'm kind of using my, skills of...
Let's call it math skills. That's
math
exactly
skills,
what it is.
Inferencing,
The guy can do
detective
math.
work.
Let's just
I know how to subtract 9 months. In fact, I know it very well because I am the baby of 5 kids. So I was my parents' last child. And doing the math on every single one of my siblings, we are all born 9 months after some kind of significant holiday. I have a sister who's 9 months after my parents' anniversary. I have a brother 9 months after Valentine's Day. I come 9 months after my mom's birthday. So pretty much I had the kind of parents that didn't get their freak on often, but when they did, they had a good occasion for it. And being the fact that I was the baby of 5 kids and it was their 13th year of marriage, I'm guessing we're talking missionary position, closed door, kids asleep in the other room and they're just trying to quickly and quietly get it done. I'm guessing it was more obligatory due to the fact that it was mom's birthday. But nonetheless, mom, dad, they did their thing. 9 months later, I came along, and that completed the family. My parents were ultra religious, so I was raised in a very religious home, ultra conservative. I did not always go that same direction in my life. In fact, in a lot of ways, I've kind of gone the opposite way.
But you kept a lot of values. I mean, you didn't go completely opposite.
I do have values. Thank you for that. Thank you for acknowledging that I'm a great person. Sorry. Really, I just feel like as far as the values go, yes, I have values, but as far as the attending church every Sunday and stuff like that, I pretty much decided when I was like 12 years old that wasn't for me. So
basically, the Novembers are more of we go to church on Christmas and Easter, the big ones that God's going to look at later and say, they tried.
We're hoping to get into heaven on a technicality. Although,
dude, we celebrated your birthday every year.
We never missed a birthday party.
Jesus, we never missed a birthday. And you want to know what?
Despite the fact that there was never cake.
That's right. And we made the best of it, man. We opened presents on your birthday. We got lights. We got all kinds of stuff going.
And we always go all out.
That's right.
Birthdays.
In fact, Jesus' birthday is probably our favorite day of the year. Well, it's at least Clyde's for sure.
Oh, it's mine for sure.
But
I love Christmas.
So
you're more Easter, which is kind of dark.
It is dark.
I mean, you prefer his death. Well, I guess Easter is like born again. or like risen again or whatever.
That actually very much describes me in all of life, really. I mean, when we really think about
Very
Rosie
dark.
November, we think she's a girl whose favorite holiday is probably Easter, around somebody dying and
Very good call.
being resurrected.
In fact, the words that you probably say around our house most often are, I almost died.
Or you almost died.
Or you almost died, which you say to our children often. They like go get the mail and then they don't look carefully before stepping into the road to get the mail. And you're like, whoa, you almost died. And I'm like, there were no cars.
Listen, I love these kids. And I want them to be very safe and be always conscious of what's going on around them.
Understandable. So now that we have my tale of conception, I think it's time we move on to Rosie's tale of conception.
I mean, I'd also like to add to your story that you didn't mention this. Clyde also comes from upper middle class, I would say very comfy situation. Like, his family always had a car that ran, and his house definitely did not have wheels under it.
It had a foundation.
Yeah, he had a foundation. He had, resources available to him 100% of his life. Let's face it, Clyde grew up kind of cushy there.
Well, kind of, in a way, compared to some, sure. However, here's the thing.
I mean, you weren't driving a Maserati at 16 or anything, but...
We lived poorer than we actually were, just because my dad's cheap. And so I always thought we were poor. I mean, we lived in a nice house, and we had functioning cars. We didn't have nice cars. But I always looked at my family when I compared myself to other kids in town. I looked at my family as like, we must be poor. And it wasn't until once all the kids graduated, all of a sudden my dad goes out and buys a new truck. Now they live in a really nice house. And I think they were just really biding their time and just hanging on to whatever money they had to eventually enjoy their lives once their children were all grown. I never had to worry whether dinner was going to be on the table. So that is one blessing from my life. That is very true in that regard. And that was a reality that I didn't even know was actually out there. You hear your parents sometimes talk about like, oh, don't waste this food. There are people that would kill for that food. Little did I know that I was going to marry someone who kind of grew up in a situation like that. So on that note, let's transition. How were you conceived?
Interesting story. I'm so glad you asked, Clyde. I had no idea this question was coming.
We've only been beating around the bush for a while.
My conception was a lot different than Clyde's. A young woman out there, about 1980-something. I'm not going to give you my exact year of birth.
Smart.
1980-something, young woman, big hair, short skirt, probably wearing some boots, hanging around a bar, and finds a guy. They make eye contact. It's clearly love at first drink. I was conceived in the restroom of a dive bar where my mom was at the time. About 4 months later, she thought she had the flu. Turns out she was pregnant, and there I was. I didn't actually know who my mother called my sperm donor until I was like 11 or 12 years old. But I was definitely my mom's biggest regret, and I was made known of that. I was really blessed because at the age of 2, my mom rekindled a relationship with her high school sweetheart and got married to him. Actually, they were remarried because they were married once at 18 and got divorced. And then my mom had a lot of fun, got pregnant with me, and they rekindled. And that is the person who in this podcast I will probably most likely call Dad, because he's been my dad as long as I can remember.
Which, by the way, is noble to, the fact that he took you in and raised you as if you were his daughter, so much so that you didn't even realize you were adopted till you were that old. There's some nobility in that.
Don't think I didn't know that I wasn't adopted. My mom told me very frequently that I came from
a sperm
donor who by the way...
Just you didn't meet him till you were 11 years old. Okay,
exactly.
I misunderstood the story. All right, go on.
Anyhow, that is my conception story. It's kind of interesting because when my mom got pregnant with me, she was sort of desolate. I mean, she didn't have anywhere to go. She was living with her parents, who were also very poor, single wide trailer in the mountains kind of thing, with my grandparents and my pregnant mother. And they were really a big help to my mom. But my mom did not have a running vehicle. So when she went into labor with me, her water broke. And my Aunt Rose, who lived down the street, was the person who came to save the day and actually drove my mother to the hospital. Now, a little bit about Aunt Rose. She never had a driver's license, but somehow she knew how to drive. She just never had a driver's license, and she could barely see. The woman was almost blind. She somehow mustered up the courage to drive my mother, who is in active labor at this point, about to give birth to me in I think it was a Chevy truck, a red Chevy truck to be exact. The thing barely ran. It's a blessing that my mom ever made it to the hospital, but Aunt Rose saved the day. The woman who did not have a driver's license, maybe barely even knew how to drive, somehow made it to the hospital with my very pregnant mother. That is why I am named after her, because Aunt Rose saved the day. And in fact, she is one of the most amazing people that I have ever known.
Thank God for that little blind woman.
Exactly. She's the cutest thing you ever saw, too. She stood about 4 foot tall, really little spitfire, kind of like me. So it's sort of fitting that I am named after Aunt Rose, because she was an awesome human being. Funny thing is at the time, my mom and dad, who I call my dad, not the sperm donor, were dating. And so there's actually a picture of me on my date of birth being held by the man who would eventually, a few years later, adopt me. It's kind of cool to see that he was there from the start. A lot of the reason that I am the person I am today has to do with the fact that I was raised by a mom and a dad who had the lives that they did. They ultimately did get divorced, but to this day, my adoptive father is the one who walked me down the aisle when I married Clyde. He's the one who my kids call Grandpa. Papa, and we're really super grateful for them. My mom eventually did get to move out of her parents' house around the time that I was about 2 years old into their own camp trailer. The story of the, 6-foot camp trailer or something?
It's the American dream right there.
Yeah.
To own your own home.
Right. Home ownership. That was a 16-foot camp trailer, to be exact.
What'd that cost them? $2,000?
Shoot. They probably traded it for like a boat or something. That he found on the side of the road. My dad was a junker. He'd find stuff on the side of the road.
What do you mean was a junker? Is. I have experience junking with your father. Great experience too. We'll share that another time.
Yeah, so he collects junk and then he trades it for other junk. Well, it just so happens that their first home happened to be a 16-foot camp trailer that was probably bartered with some sort of item that was found somewhere at some point. So that is the culture that I grew up in. Ultimately, my parents did divorce after I was a few years older than that. I have two younger siblings that are with my adoptive father and my mother. And
so they were your half-siblings?
Half-siblings, yes.
Half-siblings, got it.
And then my dad decided that he wanted to go be famous and be in a band and move to Nashville. And then the most of my early development beyond little childhood was with a single mom. So we'll talk a lot more about that in future podcasts and the stories that came about being one of three with a single mother who wore miniskirts and got pregnant in bars. It'll be some good times, people. You're going to love this podcast.
Yeah, you are. It's very relatable. You did mention, if I could go off on one thing, you did mention that there's a picture of your father holding you the day you were born. And I would real quick like to talk about that picture, because that picture inspired me to do something, alter a behavior of my own. When Rosie showed me this picture, it was an awesome picture of her adopted father sitting there holding her, except he was a trucker. And so when he got the phone call that Rosie was being born, he came straight from work. So he looked like a trucker. And so when our first child was born, I did not want to look like a bum, although I was a bum sleeping on your couch, apparently. So what did I do? The day little Rex was being born, I put on the best clothes I had. Right? And I ended up regretting it, because when I cut the umbilical cord, I didn't know that those things squirted blood the way they did, and it ended up ruining my nicest clothes. That's something I always think about when I think about that picture of you and your dad.
You know what? Maybe you could learn a little lessons from the man covered in grease with holes in his t-shirt holding that little baby Rosie that...
I know.
He didn't exactly have it all wrong there. I mean, you don't dress up for a birth. Like, it's a messy business.
It's a dirty job, people. There's a reason doctors and nurses wear scrubs and then change oftentimes halfway through their shift. I experienced it firsthand.
That's exactly right. And we are very grateful to all of those who serve in those roles. Nurses, doctors, practitioners, consultants. They are awesome, and they save lives.
They've had our backs a couple times.
Yeah, so we're super grateful for them. So if you're one of those people, just know that Clyde and Rosie love you.
We love you. Let's talk about our idiot spotlight for the episode, I guess. Every episode, we want to have an idiot spotlight where we point out one person or group of people. It could be an idiot you saw at the store. It could be an idiot that you encountered at a sporting event. Or it could be an idiot that you have to work with every single day. What we want to do is we want to highlight different idiots out there in the world and talk about them, laugh about them, because sometimes I feel like laughing about something makes the pain a little less real, if you know what I mean.
Plus, there's a lot of things in the world to be sad about and to think about and to be angry about, and we want your time with us to be something that's fun, uplifting, makes you smile, makes you laugh. When we say idiot, we say it in a real enduring way.
Absolutely. And in the introduction, I talked about how we're all idiots from one moment to another. You know, some people have great moments of brilliance, but it's the idiotic moments that make us appreciate those moments of brilliance. We are not bringing this up as a put down. We're just bringing it up as something that's kind of fun, something kind of silly. But also, we know that there are a lot of people out there that come across a lot of idiots. If you come across a certain kind of idiot and you would like us to talk about your kind of idiot, you can visit our website, ilovemyidiot.com. There is a way on there that you can leave us a message and you can tell us about the kind of idiot you've seen, and we would be happy to talk about your idiot on our podcast. But for starting out this week, the idiot we're going to talk about is the idiot at the gym. Every now and then you go to the gym and you see a lot of people there, a lot of people that fit in with the gym crowd, but then every now and then you're going to see an idiot at the gym. So, Rosie, have you ever seen an idiot at a gym?
Definitely.
Explain.
I was at the gym 2 days ago, and I'm sitting here on I'm not sitting, I'm actually doing a light jog on the treadmill, when all of a sudden a dude stands right next to me, the treadmill right next to me. There are 15 treadmills that this man could choose from, all empty. No, the guy stands right next to me in the treadmill, and he starts going at a full sprint. This man, I swear he didn't breathe for 4 minutes. The guy was just and he was running. Like, I don't know if this man was preparing for some sort of marathon or possibly going to jump some sort of wall and run really far, but he was running. He was running like Forrest Gump running. I'm talking run. And here I am, very inadequately, doing the best I can on my treadmill, looking at this idiot going, why didn't you pick a different treadmill? Like, I can't even compete with you, let alone ever meet your endurance level. And here I am doing the best I can with you right next to me. Like, I could never live up to that guy.
Would it be awkward for you to just turn your treadmill off and then go pick one 10 treadmills away?
Yeah, because we had already made eye contact. And you all know that idiot in the gym that you've made eye contact with, because instantly, all of a sudden, you are in a relationship with this person that you've never met before because you have made eye contact, maybe done a half a smirk smile, and now you're committed to the treadmill right next to the guy who's going to run 15 miles in the time it takes you to lightly jog your 1 mile.
It's probably that eye contact that inspired him to, maybe you should stop making eye contact with strangers at the gym.
I think, really, Clyde, I think what I need to do is just start wearing sunglasses, like, everywhere I go.
Absolutely.
Sunglasses, maybe a hoodie.
The truth is you have a friendly face. So, there's a lot of people that are seeking out your eye contact and, your approval, apparently. Well, I've actually had an experience with eye contact once too. So I was at the gym. I was on a machine working some muscle. I don't even know the name of it, but it's the one where you're doing like the rowboat thing. So some muscle on my back. And I'm staring right at some guy who is doing chest pumps or whatever. I don't even know the words for these because I'm not a gym rat. He's doing some kind of chest press, but like a sitting, not like a bench press, but like a sitting chest press. And as he's doing it, I notice that he has every single weight for the machine like hooked. And he's just doing all of it. And meanwhile, like, I kind of like glance at him and he's sitting there locked into me, just staring at me. And I'm like, did I go to high school with this guy or something? I'm like, dude, who is this? And this guy, like, so I look away and then I'm still doing my like back thing. I've got like my 30 pounds on that I'm doing my back thing and working up a light sweat. And I look back at him still just staring at me and like, as he's just grinding this thing out. And I'm like, dude, I hope this guy's not wanting to fight me or something. Like, what is going on? Anyways, so don't be an idiot. If you're at the gym, don't make eye contact with people.
Yeah, and don't choose the treadmill that's right next to the person who clearly could never compete with you.
Absolutely.
So, you know what, Clyde? I think it's time for our segment, Clyde's Google searches. So I would like you to hand me your phone, and I would like to tell the world, these are the things that Clyde looks at during the day. Keep in mind, the dude is still sleeping on my couch while I'm working out there in the world, slaving away.
Hey, I'm raising the children, all right?
Yeah. So while Clyde is sitting around the house, just waiting for me to get home, like a puppy. These are the things that he Google searched. All right.
All right, here it comes.
We got NBA scores. Oh, good.
Hey, playoffs, baby. It's NBA Finals right now.
Who's your favorite player?
Kawhi Leonard. I like him because he's introverted, much like myself.
Okay. When did Stephen King write Christine?
There's a story behind that, all right? I told a friend of mine that I had read a book called Christine, and then I explained the premise, and he said, so basically Stephen King stole the idea from Herbie, which I believe is the one about the slug bug that comes alive. So I needed to know which idea came first, and my friend was correct. Herbie was a good 15 years before Christine. So Stephen King, you stole someone's idea.
Stephen King, we love you. If you're listening to our podcast, we would love to have you as a guest to explain yourself.
Exactly. You need to explain yourself also.
But we love you. And
I have lots of books you could sign.
Yeah, exactly. Trust me, Clyde has read every book, Stephen.
Almost.
Just in case.
He's written a few too many. But...
Mr. King, we love you. All right. How to make soup. Clyde, why did you Google how to make soup?
Because soup seemed like an easy thing to make. I'm at home all day, and There's expectations to have dinner on the table when Rosie comes home, and quite frankly, soup seemed like an easy thing.
I'd like to tell you guys a little bit of a story about soup. I grew up in a family where meat and potatoes were like the primo meal to eat. If you had meat, I grew up very poor, in a very poor household. You rarely have meat. But if you had the option of what the perfect meal would be, it would be steak and potatoes, baby. That's what we'd be eating. But the November family is very different. And I'm wondering if as you become higher in the class status, your food becomes easier to eat because it's much more mushy, soft. You just goes right down.
Just throw it down the gullet. You don't even need to chew with a good soup.
Exactly. The Novembers love soup. It's a topic that comes up every holiday, especially if any of my family members are joining, is what's up with the Novembers and the soup thing? But these guys,
they love soup.
Love soup. They eat soup for like a whole meal. So sometimes you go over to Grandma November's house and it's like, what are we going to have? And she's like, oh, we made chicken soup and bread. And it's like, dude, do I got some is that for the appetizer? Like, where's the meal? Soup is not a meal.
Soup is the meal. It's a great food. All right. There's no going wrong with soup. I will defend soup to the death. It is one of my favorite foods, but it is probably my favorite meal. You and your family need to back off my soup. I love it. And I'm tired of getting made fun of for eating soup.
So we would like to hear your response, audience. What is a meal? Is soup actually a meal?
Or is it an appetizer? Because this is an argument that we've been having for like 12 years.
So please drop us a line on ilovemyidiot.com and tell us, is soup a meal? All right, what else are you Googling here, Clyde? How heavy is the human brain?
Well, this is awkward. Hey, sometimes you just are curious about stuff. Actually, I think that was one that Rex asked me. We have a very curious 10-year-old son. He's almost 11, but he has a very active mind. I did too when I was that age, but I didn't have Google to ask questions to. But that kid comes up to me every single day, about 5 or 6 times a day, and asks me some fucked up question that I'm like, what the? Now, I'd say once out of every 10, I humor him and I'll Google it. Usually when he asks a question that I'm like, that's a good question, son. How heavy is the human brain? Is it made up of like mush? Or is it like liquid where it's heavy? I don't know. I don't remember the result though, so you'll have to Google that on your own if you are curious. All right. Anything else on my Google searches?
The rest is all about how to build a podcast. So I think we figured out that we're idiots and we probably are doing this 100% wrong.
Oh, shoot. I forgot to hit record. Just kidding.
Honestly, if we can get enough viewers that we can maybe, pay back the investment in all of this equipment, we'd be winning. So
yeah. Even if we can just break even, I'll be happy with that.
I mean, even if we could get tens of viewers, like...
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So if you are one of our viewers, we really appreciate you.
We do. We appreciate you. We love you. And we hope you tune in to us next time. And we hope to hear from you on our website, ilovemyidiot.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. And do we have anything else for these good people?
Nope, I think that's it for today.
All right. I guess that's a wrap. And it's been fun, people.
Just remember that we're all idiots to some capacity. You're always going to run into those idiots you love, the idiots you loathe, and the idiots you just can't seem to avoid. So thank you again for joining our podcast. You have a good day. We'll talk to you again next time.